Alright, hello guys, how's it going? In yesterday's video, we went over how the rest of October is expected to go. In today's video, what we're going to do is we're going to move through the month of November and take a look at a very long-range look at how November could go. Anyways, before we get into things, be sure to smash that like button, leave a comment down below, and subscribe for more weather-related content. For today's comment of the day, I want to know, do you think November is going to be colder than normal or warmer than normal? Let me know in the comments down below, and I'll be picking one of those for tomorrow's video. Let's just get straight into this video, and first things first, we're recapping the last 3 days. We showed this yesterday, so this isn't the last 3 days. This is the 3 days before today, so the past 4 days outside of today, basically. I know that's confusing, but we had colder than normal conditions in the southeast and the west, with warm in the north central. The 15 days before that, we had cold in the west, warm in the east. And then here's how tonight is expected to go. You can see warmer than normal conditions for a lot of the eastern and Gulf seaboards there. Kind of neutral in the west and then cold up there for the upper Midwest and the Ohio Valley. This is going to be followed up with a kind of cool down there by the time we reach October 28th. So once we're reaching late October, a cool down for the eastern seaboard there. With pretty much warm for a majority of the United States. But by the time we reach November 2nd, I always want to say October when we're moving into November because it's so hard to believe we're this far into the year. We can see far below normal temperatures there for a majority of the eastern United States, our first deep cool down. And then by the time we reach November 5th, this is the look here on the GFS model. Let's go over some teleconnections quickly because this is going to give us a good idea of what could be causing these different anomalies to happen in these different temperature patterns. This is our PNA. In its negative phase, we see colder than normal conditions in the west and warmer than normal conditions in the east. In its positive phase, we see warmer than normal conditions in the west and colder conditions in the east typically. As you can see, we're in a negative, but we're going to move into a positive promptly for the end of October and a majority of November, as you can see, because the very end of the screen is kind of your beginning of December time frame. So if we look at the middle, a majority of the middle here is the month of November. And we can see that a vast majority of this time frame is spent in the positive phase of our PNA pattern, which is a key indicator that we could have colder than normal conditions setting up for the month of November for the eastern United States, a majority of the month. And that would set up for a colder than normal condition November, basically, for the eastern half of the country and warmer out west. That is super interesting, and it's pretty much the opposite of how September and October has gone. A little bit of September had a pattern like that, but a vast majority of October has been featuring a negative PNA. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to move on, and we're going to take a look at the same chart, except for our Arctic oscillation, which tells us a lot about the upcoming pattern. I'll explain it in a moment, and then we're going to take a look at the 7-day increments of November, like the first week temperature anomaly, second week temperature anomaly, third week, fourth week, etc., and then we're going to take a look at the whole thing. So all of those things are coming up in just a moment. Alright, now here is our AO, or Arctic oscillation, and as you can see, we're in a negative phase. We're expected to go to a positive phase. In its positive phase, we see the Arctic really bottle up all of its cold air, and it doesn't allow it to go into the rest of the northern hemisphere. So usually we don't see deep cooldowns when we have a positive AO. We see deep cooldowns when we have a negative AO because in a negative AO, that Arctic region warms up, and it allows that Arctic air to blast to different regions. And that's what you need for a polar vortex or an Arctic blast or anything of that nature. As you can see, promptly by the time we reach October 30th, we're going to tank into a negative AO. And then a majority of the first half of November is spent in a negative AO, which again allows for those Arctic blasts to make their way in. By the time we reach the 20th through the 30th of November there, we see a positive AO try to set up. That is the longer range on this model, so it is a little bit less confident. But still, it is an indicator that we need to pay attention to. All right, now let's go ahead and finally start taking a look at some actual temperature anomalies. Here's our European weeklies model. This is what we're going to be using. And for October 18th through the 25th, this is the pattern. Warm in the east, cold in the west, negative PNA, very torch-like pattern for the eastern United States. Now let's move into actually November, and you can see just how night and day this is. November 1st through November 8th, this is the look. Very warm in the west, very cold in the east. Classic positive PNA pattern, probably combined with a negative Arctic oscillation as well. Those two things combined basically point towards Arctic blasts in the eastern United States. The Arctic blasts come from the AO, and then whether it's in the western or eastern United States comes from that PNA pattern. And it's clear the PNA is leaning towards a positive one. Now, by the time we reach the 8th through the 15th, which is the next week of November, you can see, again, still warm in the west and then cold in the east. But that cold is a little less potent by this point, so it kind of looks like it might be coming to an end by this point. Again, we talked about how the first half features that negative AO, and the second half does not feature that negative AO. So maybe this is a sign of this cooldown coming to an end, and we're going to feature mostly a colder first half of November and a warmer second half. But we're going to have to wait and see, because in a moment what we're going to do is we're going to move on and we're going to take a look at the 15th through the 22nd, which is our third week of November, and then the 22nd through the 29th, which is our fourth week of November. Both those things are coming up in just a moment. Now, the 15th through the 22nd of November here, you can see things really rebound. Warm in the west still, but we see even deeper cold set in for the eastern United States, basically from the upper Midwest through the Ohio Valley, the Great Lakes, the Gulf states, the Southeast, the Northeast. Everywhere in the eastern half of the country is featuring below normal temperatures. But the further north you go, the more below normal it is. The greens are indicating 10 to 15 degrees below normal. So on a 7-day period, this is significant, because if you're having 10 to 15 degrees below normal on a 7-day period, that means it's probably very cold throughout a majority of that time frame. Usually you only see temperatures, you usually only see the blues in a 7-day period. It's very rare to move into those greens or even beyond. That means a deep cool down is coming, basically. And then by the time we reach the 22nd through the 29th, this is when that AO goes positive, and as you can see, it has a big effect on the actual outlook here. We see cold for the central United States, but we see warm finally for the eastern United States and the western United States. But by the time we reach late November, your average temperatures are going to be so low that I don't even think this, 1 to 4 degrees above normal is even going to feel that warm whatsoever. I think it'll actually feel quite cold still, because we're going to be a whole month and 7 days ahead of where we're at right now, which means your average temperature is likely like 15 to 20 degrees lower than it is right now. So even, getting 1 to 3 degrees above normal, it's going to be significantly colder than even below normal conditions feel like right now. Now, here is the week after that as a bonus. So November 26th through December 3rd. Again, take this with a grain of salt, because we are moving to a pretty far out range here. But as you can see, we see far below normal temperatures set up again for the eastern United States after that warm week is all said and done. The 26th of November through December 3rd, very cold temperatures set up during that time frame. So finally, here is our entire November on one screen, October 31st through November 30th here. So we do get one bonus day of October, but it's not going to actually affect this map whatsoever. As you can see, a vast majority of the eastern United States is below normal for November. Basically, outside of that final week of November, colder than normal conditions will be set up over the eastern United States. According to this European weekly model, this model has been known to do some crazy things. These long-range models, this is mostly a for fun forecast, obviously, to see if these long-range models have a good handle on it. And about 50% of the time, they do have a good handle, and 50% of the time, they do not have a good handle. So that's why you need to take this with a grain of salt. The western United States, warmer than normal, and that's going to create a positive PNA, obviously. So for today's confidence tab, we are at a 3 out of 6 for those reasons. I think the early November forecast, according to this model, is probably pretty possible, but the longer range we head in, the lower the confidence gets, and that's why we're below 50% on the confidence. For today's comment of the day, I asked you guys, how do you think the next 10 days, or I guess the final days of October, are going to go? And James Marr said, I believe it will be slightly colder than normal. And I think that's a good bet. I think it could be more near normal or something like that. But I think that's a great bet there by James Marr for sure. For today's patron highlight of the day, I would thank you all for supporting the channel, but especially our Platinum patrons, Bill Crates, James Wade, Dovian Eagle, Larry LePan, Mandy Birchfield, and Patrick Strickland as well. I would also like to thank our Diamond patrons, Bill Roberts, Marcus Connolly, Noah Harley, Michael Kotalesa, Catbite, Charles Stinnett, Cindy Klein, Alan Goodmaben, Bill Dallas, Gary, John Khaleesi, Dwight Phelan, Stephen Crenenthal, and Thomas D. Barr as well. If you'd like to join this awesome Patreon entry today, you can do so by joining our very amazing Patreon page in the description and in the pinned comments down below. I would also like to thank our channel members, Catbite, Stephen Fan, and Jeremy Cox as well. If you would be interested in joining this, it'll be located next to the subscribe button down below. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to smash that like button, leave a comment down below, and subscribe for more weather-related content. I'll see you guys in the next video.